Hello everyone, this is the Hungry Cube here, and aren't you just tired of all these dumb Prager University videos? Well, I sure as hell fucking am. So let's go through every single one that is so mindfuckingly dumb that they cause actual damage to your brain cells.
Fucking thing sucks!
Där rasismen och antifeminismen hänger ihop.
Mi volt ez a pusztító alfáriság?
You know, for 27 years, I was an atheist. I thought anyone who believed in a god or gods was, well, stupid, or uneducated, naive, gullible, or just into the gig for money, sex, and power. I mean, after all, everyone knows that religion is just a psychological crutch for intellectual weaklings, right?
So you're saying you were a douchebag. But, alright. I can see why anyone would feel like that, because Christians can be very dumb. And you shall demonstrate that very soon, so please, do go on.
So, what changed my mind? Well, look, I tell the whole story in my book, Shattered.
Thank you for the product placement.
But for our purposes here on Prager University, I was simply challenged by my Christian teammates on the Cincinnati Reds to read some religious books, critique them, and then share with the guys where the authors were wrong and why atheism is the only real and true outlook for anyone not deceived by fantasy, fiction, or mythology. I mean, for someone who wants to base their beliefs and values upon evidence and argument, not emotion and tradition. Now look, simply put, I set out to disprove theism.
That is stupid. Most atheists know that you can't disprove theism, and you don't even need to. Because while it is true that you can't disprove it, you also can't prove it. Therefore, it is not the job of the atheist to disprove the hypothesis of God. It is the job of the theist to prove the hypothesis of God. Since why should we believe in a God that no one has ever provided any evidence or proof for? Now that is how a reasonable atheist thinks like.
But I ran into some difficulties along the way. Difficulties like Aristotle, Augustine, Aquinas.
Oh, screw you, these are just some big names you're throwing around, and to most people they don't even mean anything. But I took the time to actually examine what these people said and what kind of difficulty could they present to an atheist. Let's start with Augustine, since he's the one that didn't prove or do anything. In fact, the only thing he did is write down some of his own interpretations of the Bible and theology. But of course his theories only work, if they even work, within the context of the Bible. And while his influence played an important role in the subjugation of women and Jews exercised by the Catholic Church for the following 16 centuries, he hardly provided anything that could convince a non-believer to become a Christian. Now, let's take a look at Aquinas, and since he covers the arguments of Aristotle in his 5 Proofs of God, and I don't like repeating myself, I'm going to skip him and just focus on the actual evidence, if we can call it that they have provided. So, the first proof that these two fine gentlemen cooked up is the argument of the unmoved mover, which says that everything is in motion, and all motion is caused by another motion, and that's caused by yet another motion, and so on. But the chain of motion can't be infinite, so there must be something that causes change without itself changing, an unmoved mover that we understand to be God. This argument makes absolutely no sense, since how would you know that the chain of motion can't be infinite? And even if you would know, why would you have to bring God into the picture? Why can't there be just some first cause? Why does it have to be some out-of-context intelligent being with no explanation whatsoever? The second proof that Aquinas provides is the causality argument, which is the exact same as the unmoved mover. So I have no idea why he even had to break it into two separate arguments, since they are the exact same. The third proof is the argument of contingency, which states that things are contingent, in other words, perishable. They are capable of going out of existence. And if everything is contingent, then given infinite time, nothing should exist now. But things clearly do exist now. Therefore, there must be an imperishable being that we understand to be God. This argument makes so many wild assumptions that it collapses upon itself. First of all, it assumes that time is infinite, and that is just not true. Since Albert Einstein, we know that time is relative. Gravity, for example, can slow it down and speed it up. And according to modern physics, the concept of time didn't even exist before the Big Bang. Without a universe, there is no such thing as time. And then it doesn't take into account that things also come into existence and not just out. And then it assumes that the thing that is imperishable must be a being, a god. Why? Why can't it be the universe? As long as we have a universe, things come in and out of existence within the universe. How is that less plausible? The fourth proof is the argument from degree that says things have properties to a bigger or lesser extent, and that suggests that there is a standard against which it is being judged. Therefore, there must be something that has these properties to the maximum possible extent, and this we understand to be God. Ugh! How can you be more ridiculous? Tom? Why? Why does there have to be something that is the most perfect? Where is the evidence to suggest that such a thing exists? And yet again, why does it have to be God? Why do you make all these big assumption leaps? I don't get it. The fifth proof is the teleological argument that says that there are intelligent and non-intelligent objects. Non-intelligent objects behave with predictable results, so their behavior must be set, but it can't be set by themselves, since they are non-intelligent. Therefore, it must be set by something with intelligence, and that we understand to be God. No. Bullshit. Objects behave according to the laws of physics. They don't need God to set their behavior. Now you could argue that it was God that set the laws of physics, but there is no reason to assume so. There is no evidence. There is no need. So yeah, these people are not some huge obstacles that atheists just can't argue with. They are jokes. Old relics who don't understand science because the scientific knowledge wasn't out there yet. But today we have a better understanding of science, so I don't think we should cling to these people.
I was confronted with the awareness that there are really 4 big bangs that have to be accounted for, not just one.
I'm listening.
I mean, we're all familiar with the first Big Bang, right? It's usually the answer given to the question, why is there something rather than nothing? It's the idea that there was nothing, it popped, and boom, there's something. I mean, that time, matter, and space all came into existence in some great cosmological flash about 16 billion years ago. There was no gradual development, no transitional forms, just a binary flip. A metaphysical, now you don't see it, and now you do.
The reason why there is something rather than nothing is that nothing is unstable, and particles pop in and out of existence all the time. So I don't know what's your problem with this.
Astrophysicists tell us that this first Big Bang yielded only a handful of fundamental elements, and that it would take billions and billions of years for the nuclear furnaces of trillions of stars to yield the 118 elements in the periodic table. But the first theoretical cosmological Big Bang, well, it only yields matter and energy. It doesn't even begin to address the origin of life.
So?
How do you get life from non-life? How did abiogenesis occur? I mean, the notion that something can come from nothing. Where's the evidence?
Look it up.
Well, you're going to need another something from nothing leap of faith, some kind of biological second Big Bang. For all the mind-blowing advancements we've made in physics, biology, and chemistry in just the past 100 years, we're still no closer to making it happen. We don't have a clue. The closer we look, the wider the chasm.
No. Completely false. We are a billion times closer to the answer. We understand that for life to begin, all we need is a molecule that is capable of replicating itself. And we know the first self-replicator had to be something simpler than DNA. It was probably RNA, but it could have been even more simple. All we need is the right conditions and a few billion years. But definitely not a binary on and off switch. Life developed from chemistry under a very long period of time. And while it is true that we don't know exactly how to create life, we have a pretty good general idea.
Now look, at this point, we still only have physics, chemistry, and some basic biology, or matter, energy, and simple life, if you will. But we still don't have a way to account for the great diversity of life forms. I mean, the huge differences between bacteria, plants, and animals.
That's what evolution explains, you dipshit.
Nor do we have a way to account for the differences between man and animal. We still don't have an anthropology at this point.
We do.
So we're going to need a kind of anthropological third Big Bang to account for all this, which of course is what Darwin was after in his Descent of Man thesis. Now look, Darwin answered a lot of questions, but he could never answer the core question. How did evolution begin?
He didn't need to. You fucking moron. He explained the mechanism through which life becomes diverse. He doesn't need to show where exactly did it start.
But hey, we're still not done describing the world that is all around us. A final Big Bang is going to be required to explain how a mechanistic animal brain can become a self-reflective human mind.
Oh God. Just look it up, please. There are hundreds of documentaries you can find that explain how humans evolved over time.
Even the lowest life forms have brains and central nervous systems. I mean, how does something like that become the mind of a Michelangelo, a Shakespeare, a Beethoven? Come on, animals don't do art and they don't appreciate beauty. But the problem is even more basic than that. How do you account for free will and introspection, let alone man's pressing existential drive to ask why?
You are arrogant. You think that there is this clear-cut difference between animals and humans, but it's not that simple. We are the most intelligent species on Earth because that's how we evolved, because that's what gave us an edge, an advantage to survive. But there are other animals as well who evolved to be intelligent. Not as intelligent as us, of course, but still there are varying degrees. And how would you know that animals don't like art? What kind of research did you conduct about that? And actually, in reality, there are some studies that show that chimpanzees prefer African and Indian style music to Japanese music or silence. And while this is not actual evidence that chimpanzees really listen to music, it brings up the possibility.
Well, we're going to need some kind of psychological fourth Big Bang to account for man's moral and aesthetic sense. I mean, his search for meaning, significance, and purpose. And of course, his appreciation for the true, the good, and the beautiful. And again, you must understand these problems require bangs. I mean, sudden binary pops into existence, since there's no evidence for any gradual development in any of these. So I, like you, have a choice. It's either faith in these four Big Bangs of somethings from nothings to account for what we see all around us, or faith in some kind of creator God behind it all.
Nope. I'm sorry, you failed to present that. These 4 Big Bangs you talk about don't exist, and the only one that does exist is explained quite well by science. And even if your Big Bangs would exist, you are still using a logical fallacy called God of the Gaps, which is to say, you can't explain it, therefore God. And that is bullshit. So yeah, this was probably the dumbest one of all the Prager videos. I was the Hungry Cube. Comment, share, like, dislike, subscribe, or whatever the fuck you want. Best wishes and fuck off.